we're just not doing good enough. I could comb through it with a whole bunch of minutia, but the bottom line is popcorn. If it was one identifiable thing, then you would pluck that one thing out and move on with your day. It's probably a myriad of some of the variables that you mentioned, and we just got to, not blink, and we got to continue to do what it is that we've done to produce quality play in that area in the past and get ready for our next opportunity to answer those questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome to the Matchup Show presented by POWERHOME Solar. Steelers and Bills meeting once again for Sunday Night Football. And let's introduce you to our panel to break it all down. Bob Labriola of Steelers.com and Steelers Digest in the festive mood. Shout out Mary Ann. We also have former Steelers running back Merrill Hodge on hand. Hi Merrill. And former Steelers outside linebacker Arthur Moats is here as well. And I bet you guys can guess where we are going to start today about the Steelers. That, of course, is about the run game, maybe the lack thereof. As Coach Tomlin said after the loss to Washington, if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win. So, Labs, is this something the Steelers need to commit to run the ball or just improve situationally?
Well, I think improving situationally is the bare minimum. Because you can't afford to go into the playoffs with no running game at all, or with a running game like we've seen from the Steelers the previous couple of weeks. So improving it situationally to me is the bare minimum. And how you get there, though, that to me is the question. And because I'm not ready to say, okay, commit to the running game during games to the point where, maybe you're doing it even if you're not doing it that well. Because the object, not to go all Herm Edwards on everybody here, but the object is to win the game. The Steelers are not in the playoffs yet. They're still competing for seeding, the division title, some significant things. And so winning the game is most important. Hopefully along the way to doing that, they can improve the running game so that it at least can be successful situationally.
All right, Merrill, in your opinion, is this fixable? And if so, how do they do it?
Yeah, everything's fixable in what they're doing wrong. First of all, the two key components to be successful running the football are controlling the line of scrimmage and winning at the point of attack. Like every run has a point of attack. So if you control the line of scrimmage, you win at the point of attack, your chances of being successful in the running game are pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to do that all the time, because clearly nobody has ever done that in the history of football. But if you do that a majority of the time, you can become a very good offensive team. So if you look at their problems, offensive line has struggled winning at the line of scrimmage. How come they've lost there? What's been their struggles? Well, oftentimes a lot of it's pad level. The way they come off the ball, instead of really sinking their hips, bending their knees, and striking and moving, there's too many people standing up. If you've watched Washington last week, they all had great leverage. They were winning at the line of scrimmage. And then winning at the point of attack where the ball is going to head. Let's go to the 4th and 1. Coach Tomlin mentioned if you can't get 1 yard, probably don't deserve to win. A pure mental error by Eric Ebron. Now, Eric Ebron has to cut off Chase Young. That's all he's got to do. It's his responsibility to stop just before Chase Young and cut him off. And he goes way past him in the motion. Okay, what I'm getting at, all those things are correctable. Okay, now you can correct them, and then if you apply them, this is where I get the theory. A coach has all the power but no control. Because I can tell you this, in that 4th and 1 situation, Eric Ebron was told in practice, it's your responsibility in motion to slow down and just cut off Chase Young. Well, when you get beyond Chase Young and you let him have a free run to the running back when they had one at the point of attack, you got no shot to win that. So offensive line, yes, they can clearly get better in how they come off the ball as a group. Your perimeter players, from fullback to tight ends to wide receivers, all can do a much better job in how they're going about making sure their assignment's right and getting people blocked or getting people accounted for. And then the runners really have contributed to some of this inconsistency. When you look at some of their runs, the runner's responsibility is I got to time things right, and I have to have a pacing. I have to have a distance when we have people pulling. I can't be ahead of my blockers, because what does that do? That doesn't help you if you get ahead of your blockers. You got to be behind your blockers and give timing. And at times, runners have struggled with that. So all of those things can be worked on and made a much better going forward. And the Buffalo Bills have struggled defending teams that have run the ball. They have not been a very good run defense. It's a team that you could get going on, but you better correct all of those things or you'll struggle just like you have the last 4 weeks.
Arthur, that's where I was going to kind of go with you next in terms of the Bills' run defense. Is this a game you see the Steelers? I feel like we've said this every time that we've talked about their run game needing to improve. Well, this defense, this could get them started. Where do you go with this team?
Yeah, so I know the Bills have been very inconsistent in terms of stopping the run, but I feel like that situation has been more related to the injuries that they've had at various points of the season. They're starting to get back healthy at their inside linebacker spot with Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, but throughout the year, man, those guys being out, that definitely hurt them. Now, when we're talking about running the ball on that Bills defense, it goes back to what both Bob and Merrill were talking about in terms of the technique and fundamentals, in terms of your pad level, in terms of having the patience as a runner. That's not going to be an easy challenge against this Bills front. Ed Oliver has been playing extremely well this year. He's a young guy, high pedigree guy as well. If you don't continue to do the base things right, though, the fundamental things right, this defense is going to create some big problems for them, especially as it pertains to the run game.
All right, we have to talk about the drops that we have seen the last 2 weeks by the Steelers pass catchers. And Labs, Coach Tomlin warned on Tuesday, if you can't catch the ball, we're not going to throw it to you. Do you anticipate any division of labor changes on Sunday night in Buffalo?
Well, I really think a lot of this falls on Ben in terms of because he decides who gets the ball. It's the NFL. It's not a college team where you have 90 guys in uniform. I mean, you might have 5 or 6 wide receivers in uniform on game day. And so if you're using 4 or 5 at a time, you can't really bench people. They have to be out there. But Ben is the guy who makes that decision. I mean, I remember the story that Bill Nunn told me about a long time ago in the 60s. He went up to Bobby Lane, who was the Steelers quarterback at the time, and said, "What makes a good wide receiver?" And Bobby Lane said, "He's a good wide receiver because I throw him the football." So there it is. I mean, Ben is the one who has all the power, all the control. And I would be totally in favor of him just telling guys, you drop 1 or 2, you may not see the ball for a couple of quarters or maybe at all. There's not a lot of flexibility in terms of who's on the field, but I think there's total flexibility in who number 7 targets once he has the ball in his hand.
Merrill, today Juju Smith-Schuster said that it's a matter of guys trying to make a play before getting the ball or even running backs. Is it as simple as concentrating more and focusing more and kind of going back to the basics?
Well, Missy, I think listen, I learned this as a player. I've emphasized it as a coach at every level. Don't be Captain Obvious. I don't want you to coach Captain Obvious. I don't want you as a coach going, you got to catch the ball. Okay, guess what? 65,000 people when they're in the stands are saying that. Help your guys catch the ball. What are they doing wrong and why are they not catching? So let's go through the process of catching the football. You have to do this as a coach. You walk in the room. Everybody in that room knows you got to catch the ball. You don't need to say that. They already understand how critical it is. We better not be dropping any more balls if we want to go forward. So I would come in and emphasize we're going to go back to all of the principles that help us catch the ball. One of the problems that they're having, and most of the time you see the drops, the ball is just getting too close to their body. The first thing you really always should do is attack a ball and absorb the attack with your hands. So you catch the ball actually out here before it gets to your body. And if you see a lot of the drops, 2 things are happening. The ball's right here, so if it hits your pads, taking your eyes off it in the same process, the ball's chance of you catching it aren't that good. So we go back to the window of catching it, tucking it, seeing the catch before we move. So you have to go back to that process and those habits, if you will, emphasize those habits. Because listen, you can ruin somebody's confidence if you come in there and do it a complete opposite of that. I just think you got to build confidence back up by the principles in which you catch the ball, emphasize those things, those habits, and then that'll translate back to the field. If you just come in there and scream, got to catch the ball, and you do nothing about helping your guys, that's a major mistake.
Arthur, from a defensive standpoint, are the Bills in their meetings saying, hey, look at this drop, here's the guys who have had them, what are they doing to prepare for the Steelers wide receivers and Eric Ebron?
Yeah, I think if you're in that Bills meeting room right now from a defensive standpoint, you understand the type of talent that the Steelers have offensively. You know how dynamic they can be with their receivers and their tight ends. You can't hang your hat on them dropping the ball consistently. That's the issue. If you're talking about, man, is this going to be an easier opponent because of the league leading drops? that there is no guarantee that this team is going to come out here and have drops like that. I mean, what we're talking about right here, Merrill just broke down the fundamentals of catching. And if they can just simply work on those elements and continue to get better at that, that's going to cut down a lot of those drops. So if you're the Bills defense, you definitely have to respect what these receivers can do. You have to understand, man, even with them having drops, they're still very deadly, very scary. And even last week, for example, you look at Deontay Johnson and Eric Ebron. They both were double-digit target guys. And even with the drops that they had, they still were around, I think, 8 catches for Deontay, and I want to say either 6 or 7 for Ebron. So even with that, they are still able to make plays. They're still able to hurt you in a major way. So if you're that Bills defense, you can't look at that as this is going to be a little bit easier because of the drops that we've seen on film.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here on the Matchup Show. When we return, we will talk Big Ben versus Josh Allen. We'll be right back.
The Steelers official mobile app is your window into your favorite team. Behind the scenes access.
Oh man, he is just running so hard.
Live audio including game broadcasts.
That's what you call smart football.
Statistics. Press conferences and interviews. And Steelers Nation Unite exclusive access and benefits. That's all in the Steelers official mobile app. Download it for free today.
He's good at what he does. He's a big guy. He reminds me a lot of Ben when he was young in terms of running the football. Sometimes he runs to escape. Sometimes he's got some called plays for him in terms of draws, quarterback draws and stuff like that. Sometimes he runs sweeps. So we had to be ready for him doing that all the time. He is an effective runner for him.
All right, that was defensive coordinator Keith Butler talking about Josh Allen. And let's compare, since everybody keeps referring to him as Ben Roethlisberger. These are the 2020 numbers in terms of what Big Ben has done, and Josh Allen comparative to 33 qualified quarterbacks, thanks to NFL research for our stats throughout the show today. So, Arthur, another thing that they provided with us, Next Gen Stats, is how much Josh Allen does not like to be under pressure and how ineffective he is. So what does the Steelers defense need to do to attack him?
Yeah, so when you talk about getting pressure on Josh Allen, that is typically the case with a lot of quarterbacks, not just necessarily blitzing, because it's a difference between blitzing a quarterback and getting pressure on him. If you're able to get pressure on Josh with your front four, like the Steelers have been able to do consistently, without a doubt, you're going to rattle him. But the problem is this. He does a great job of extending the play. He does a great job of making the first guy miss. And then he puts a lot of strain and pressure on your secondary. So you have to, it's that fine line you have to walk between coming after him, but making sure that you don't allow him to extend those plays. Very similar to Ben Roethlisberger from that standpoint, in terms of, if you can keep Ben in the pocket and you're hitting him, it's going to go well for you. But once Ben is able to make that first guy miss, now he's able to really break your back with some of these throws downfield. So when you're watching Josh, that's the same type of concept. You want to hit him, but you want to make sure he does not get out that pocket and make guys miss, because then he's going to be lethal.
Labs, in your opinion, is Josh Allen the best quarterback the Steelers have faced so far?
Well, I will say this for sure. He is the best quarterback out of that draft class. That included Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. To me, Josh Allen is by far the best of all of that group. He is a guy who, he is more accomplished in the pocket than some of those other guys who were drafted in his class. And he also has, the mobility and strength, as Arthur was pointing out, to use his legs either to buy himself some more time to make plays down the field, or he can just make plays with his legs, tuck the ball, run. He can get what is necessary, to convert third downs, those kinds of things. So, Josh Allen is the kind of a guy where you need pressure on him, yes, but you have to. It has to be more like an anaconda kind of pressure, where you surround him and you just gradually squeeze the life out of him. You cannot let him, be running around out on the turf.
All right, the bad mental images I now have in my head. Merrill, is this a matchup of Big Ben versus Josh Allen?
Well, when people say that, because they don't play each other, it's always hard to measure that. Now, if you're looking at those critical players making critical plays, well, almost every game comes down to something like that. So I say yes from that perspective, and then I'm like, but if really the success of both of these teams is really going to be what happens up front for them, how the trench plays, how their offensive line plays, and for the Steelers' second aspect of things, how well their backs play, especially against pressure, because they have struggled with that, and teams know that. So when they get on third down and they want to target that back with their pressures, they're going to keep getting challenged until those backs realize or show that they can defend and pick up blitzes. So when you say that, there's a lot of layers to that. Clearly, they're going to have to make plays, and the difference in the game could be who makes the play, the big play in the game to win it for them.
Quickly, Merrill, what's something you've seen that you've liked from Josh Allen this season?
Well, he has the most powerful arm in all of football. It's not Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is just more acrobatic in how he can throw. When you think of just pure power and strength, it is Josh Allen. He can be flat-footed and hit it, throw a comeback at 22 yards on the rope. He is a dangerous guy from a mobility aspect. He is very athletic, and he can do some things. Arthur's already mentioned that. Lab has mentioned that. He is a very complete player. He's become more polished from the passing perspective than he was in Wyoming. Coming out, he was erratic deep down the field. He's not as much so there. It's still inconsistency of his, but he has developed in a much better fashion. I've watched him since he was in Wyoming for his career in Wyoming, and I'm impressed with how much better he has gotten each and every year from a pure passing perspective. But he is as complete as you're going to see. He's dangerous in every aspect of football and what a quarterback can do.
All right, guys, we're going to take our last break here on the Matchup Show presented by POWERHOME Solar. When we return, we'll get your keys to the games. Don't go anywhere.
The Steelers official mobile app is your window into your favorite team. Behind-the-scenes access.
Oh, man, he is just running so hard.
Live audio, including game broadcasts.
That's what you call smart football.
Statistics. Press conferences and interviews. And Steelers Nation Unite exclusive access and benefits. That's all in the Steelers official mobile app. Download it for free today.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time now for our keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store. All right, Arthur, we will let you go first on this one. Hopefully you're not working both sides of this matchup. The Steelers and the Bills. I've been thinking about that. So give us your key to Sunday night for the Steelers to win.
Come on now, don't even put that out there for Steeler Nation, okay? I've already been blown up enough about this. Where are you at on the side of the fence this week? Don't put me in that position, all right? I got my Steelers shirt on. We're on Steelers right here. That's all that matters, all right?
We like it.
But for me, I think the biggest key for especially the defense, man, is Minkah Fitzpatrick taking advantage of Josh Allen when he does make a mistake. As much as he's improved throughout his career, which is very rare in terms of seeing a quarterback come in and grow from an accuracy standpoint, he has done a great job of that, but he still has the tendency of playing too much hero ball, trying to do too much instead of throwing the ball away. He feels like because of his arm being so strong that he can fit it into some of these tight windows. We know how great Minkah Fitzpatrick has been at capitalizing on those type of situations, breaking on the ball, and ultimately making those back-breaking turnovers that we love and have grown accustomed to from Minkah. I feel like that's going to be a big-time key in this game. When Josh is scrambling, when Josh is trying to do a little bit too much, Minkah has to come up with one of those timely plays to really flip it back in our favor.
Minkah magic, I think, is what we have been calling it. Okay,
yes,
Merrill,
indeed.
Give us your key to this game.
Well, I've alluded to it already, and it's the area that, quite honestly, it's not just the key to this game, but it could be the key to them winning a Super Bowl, is really the offensive line and the perimeter players, those tight ends and the fullback that gets included in this. in not just how they can establish a line of scrimmage and be able to run the football when they need to and on a consistent basis, but the perimeter players are a critical part of that. If those guys, and sometimes it's just about knowing your assignment, that's really what's happened. People have messed their assignments up and haven't been where they're supposed to be, and really there's no excuse for that, but how you change your technique and going back to those things that help you become a successful player on each down and working on those, fine-tuning those right now so that you can not only win this game but set yourself up to win a Super Bowl, I think is vital in this game. If those guys play in that area, terrific football, then they will beat the Bills for that, and they have a good chance of winning number 7 if they continue to grow and develop there. Okay,
Labs, give us your key.
The stars have to be stars, or as Mike Tomlin has said, the A players have to play A. And, by that I mean, the Steelers have had a little bit of a talent drain here lately. They lost Devin Bush earlier. They lost Bud Dupree recently. Last week against Washington, there was no Chris Boswell. At one point, they were without Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, no Marquise Pouncey, no James Conner. Okay, we're still kind of in flux as to which of those guys are going to be back. We do know for sure that Devin Bush and Bud Dupree are done for the season, but there are still guys on that roster, still guys on both offense, defense, who are Pro Bowl players, who are all pro players, and the Steelers need those guys to play to their pedigree. We talked about Minkah Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt's another one, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Ben Roethlisberger. These guys have to play to their level of talent, and if they do, then I'm with the other guys. I do believe the Steelers can win this game.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining me here today on the Matchup Show. I really appreciate it. That's going to do it for us. We'll see everybody back here next week. Have a great night.